And those developments in Venezuela now forming the subject of our conversation tonight as we speak to Venezuelan-American journalist Mariana Atencio, to discuss exactly what is going on the ground. Mariana, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. I know it's still early on in the day where you are, but let's start firstly with talking about how the people in Venezuela are reacting to all these developments.
Bongi, thank you so much for covering this important story. And I will start with the overall feeling for Venezuelans, and that is elation, that is relief at the fact that this tyrant has been removed from power. Now, two things can be true at the same time. We can be happy that Maduro was removed, and we can also be concerned about the fact that the regime is still in place, namely now being headed by the woman who assumed the interim presidency, and that is Delcy Rodriguez. She is very much a part of the machinery, has been leading not only the way Venezuelans deal with its oil, she's also been heading some of the torture chambers down there. So she's very much a part of this regime, very much one of the masterminds. But we also understand that this is a transition. This regime has been in place for 25 years, and that the Trump administration didn't want a power vacuum to happen and had to deal with this devil, for lack of a better word, in order for a peaceful transition to happen.
Now, the debate rages, you've seen it, that this is in fact about the oil and not about the people of Venezuela. How do you respond to that?
Listen, I wrote a column on Substack about this because when people who are not Venezuelans ask us, why are we not outraged about the fact that President Trump immediately started talking about the oil? It is because this regime, Bongi, has taken our oil for 25 years and has used it to fund Cuba, has used it to strengthen its ties with Russia and Iran. Everyday Venezuelans have not seen a penny of this oil. As you have seen in the past several years, this is a country with some of the biggest oil reserves in the world, and yet people are struggling for basic medical care and food. So if what the Trump administration is proposing is for American companies to come in to rebuild an industry that has been completely run into the ground and is producing very little amounts of oil for what we actually have in terms of resources, Venezuelans welcome it. And as you saw just yesterday, President Trump posting on Truth Social that the U.S. is now going to get from 30 to 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela, sanctioned oil that then they're going to sell at market price. He also posted about the fact that he said this is not going to be sold at the preferential rates that Venezuela was given some of these nefarious allies. So we absolutely welcome the U.S. getting involved in this industry that was in shambles, because when we say our oil, this regime was using our oil, Bongi, for the most horrific human rights abuses and to fuel the drug trade as well.
So when you look at all of this, because ultimately there are still some, and we heard this question to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, earlier on, to say that it doesn't look like the U.S. has a plan for Venezuela. And in fact, according to some, they're saying that they're making it up as they go along. How confident are the Venezuelans tonight that in fact what, the plans that we are hearing about are actually going to materialize and life, as you say, could be better for them?
I think the first thing that we have to note here is that any plan is going to take some time. This is a regime that has been in place with the help of the Cuban regime, by the way, who are experts at crumbling countries, in place for 25 years. So dismantling the whole structure is going to take some time. And I think the Trump administration has proven, just with the operation that we saw on Saturday to remove Nicolás Maduro, is that they can appear to be, quote, making it up as they go along. But this plan had been in place for months, to the point that they were monitoring Maduro's every move. And I think what we heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio today, just now, where he was explaining the threefold process, the three phases that they have in plan for Venezuela. So step one, stabilization, step two, recovery, and step three, transition, is not reflective of an administration that is making it up as it goes along. Of course, there are a lot of unknowns, and history always has a lot of unknowns, but we are confident, Bongi, that this is the closest that we have ever been to getting rid of the this regime, and this is the closest that we've ever been truly to returning to the fold of Western democratic nations. And I think now, as in my case, as a Venezuelan-American, I think it's very much in the interest of the United States, of the Venezuelan-American community, and of American citizens for Venezuela, this country that is just a 2.5-hour flight from where I'm sitting in Miami, to not have Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, Russians destabilizing our region in such a short flight from the United States, and using oil and using the drug trade to continue to wreak havoc on the people of Venezuela and on the hemisphere.
As a final question then, Maria Corina Machado, for example, saying that her coalition should lead Venezuela. And the US president, though, at the weekend, when he was asked about this question, he wasn't really quite sure if he would go with this particular option. So when you look at all of this and what is currently taking place, what is the possibility of her coalition coming in?
There is no doubt in most Venezuelans' minds that Maria Corina Machado is the leader that will lead Venezuela back into a democracy that will stabilize the country. She has been prepared for this for decades, but the current transition per the Trump administration requires dealing with the forces that are still in play down in the country that unfortunately, like it or not, control the oil and control the guns and control the institutions, Bongi. So handing that to Machado at the moment was deemed too risky by the Trump administration. But make no mistake, Venezuelans voted for Edmundo González Urrutia and Maria Corina Machado, and the medium to long-term play, especially the long game here for Venezuelans, is for her to assume the presidency. She has been the only opposition figure, I may add, that has really garnered the trust, the transparency from everyday Venezuelans, not just Venezuelans who live in the United States, but truly she gave the people on the ground, the poorest of Venezuelans who had lost hope for so many years, restored hope that a change would come. And she did this way before the Trump administration conducted this operation. She risked her life. She risked seeing her family. And we will not forget that as we move forward toward what is hopefully a new chapter for Venezuela after this very, very dark 2 decades of this regime that has really ran our country into the ground.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was Venezuelan-American journalist Mariana Atencio, live for us from Florida in the United States, giving us her take on the latest developments there.